On today's episode of the Human Atavist podcast, we're going to talk about happiness, fulfillment, and how to find your purpose. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Human Atavist podcast. My name is Sven Kron, and here we're going to explore and follow the examples set down by our ancestors so we can truly achieve the happiness, health, and vitality that we all deserve. I hope you enjoy our journey as we discover what it means to be humans, human atavist, rewild your health, change your life. I want to remind everyone to join our movement by heading to humanatavist.com/podcast. That's human, ATAVI.st/podcast, and sign up for a copy of my latest ebook, Activate Your Nutrition. You'll also get a ton of free content to help you along your path. Okay, so one aspect that I wanted to talk about in this podcast was happiness. Happiness, fulfillment, and purpose are really three important topics that I think everybody should have. And I think that it's an important part of, taking all of this information that we have from our human ancestors and bringing it to the future. What I'm wanting to do is meld all of the ancient practices with what we can do now and with all of the ideas that we now express. And I think that a lot of these, we can pull a lot of it, but a lot of it is living in today's 21st century. I don't think you can really go back to hunting and gathering like maybe you could have, a couple hundred years ago. But what I really want to do is go over a lot of the fulfilling things in life. I want to talk to a lot of people who are really happy and who enjoy what they do, have a lot of purpose. I think a lot of these topics are kind of poo-pooed, and I think that when you actually talk to someone about what their purpose is, they may or may not be able to point directly to it, but if it's someone who's really driven, someone who's doing what they want, who's living their dream, who's truly happy, I think that they have a purpose. So that's what I want to get into today. So really your purpose, it's what you were meant to do. It's what you feel like you were brought into this world for. I don't necessarily believe in like gods, but a higher power would, instill inside of you a real meaning. You're really drawn to something, and say, someone who's drawn to, like Usain Bolt, drawn to running, his purpose is running, at least right now. Hard to tell what he's going to do in the future, but you can tell he's really drawn to it. He is really passionate about it. It's what fulfills him. He probably thinks about it most of the time. He probably is always considering what the best running tactics are. And like in that last practice, my first footfall was a little too short, so I didn't get the extensive power. And so I've got to make sure not to do that. I wonder what this other guy's doing. I'm sure that it's his purpose and what he's really drawn to. Now my personality, my partner gets on me about being obsessive. I think of it more as passionate. I have lots of interests, and, if I was going to try to do everything that I wanted, I would feel very pulled in all directions. But what I do is I become, hypersensitive to one topic. I become really sensitive to like physics or something. I went through a phase where I really liked physics, and I read tons of physics books and I studied it. And, I actually planned on going to a college and becoming a physics professor, being able to do research, work on the theory of everything, all that kind of stuff. And I think that what I learned from all of that research in physics really does apply to some of this other stuff. I think it applies to the exercise mechanics that I like to look at now. I think it applies to nutrition and how your body works, biomechanics, all that kind of stuff. I think it's all pretty related. So I don't think it's necessarily waste, but When I find something that I think is my purpose, I pursue it. And it's really difficult having, a family and having responsibilities and all of this other stuff to be present when you're with your family and also being focused when you're working on your purpose. Another example would be I want to spread information. I feel like my purpose right now, if I had to, dig deep, would be to talk about what I know, how to spread this around, how to tell other people what I know. And I think that a lot of this information is not really easily accessible. So I want to bring it to light for people who may be in my spot, who may or may not know all of this stuff, but I'm just hoping that I can make it easy for people. And, I think all of this stuff is related. When you don't have your purpose, you feel empty, I guess. You probably feel depressed, you feel sad, you feel like you're a burden on everyone, like you're just dead weight dragging other people down. It's a really bad thing not to have a purpose. And if it's something that you're not aware of, then it could be the root of other problems. If you have trouble losing weight, if you have lots of bills and you can't make enough money or something like that, that could be a result of you not having a purpose. Maybe it was something that you had that you dreamed about and everybody told you were crazy and you shouldn't do it. And so you gave up on it and now you feel bad. Now it's reflecting physically onto you. So I think that one thing people should do is take a step back, go back to being a child. When I was a child, I wanted to be an astronaut. And I think that if you don't know what your purpose would be or where to begin, then that's a good place to start. Now, your purpose needs to be clearly defined, and that means that you can't just say, I want to, fly. You've got to clearly define what you want to do because there's so many aspects to it. Do you want to fly in an airplane? Do you want to actually get your pilot license? Do you want to develop some kind of winged thing, like Leonardo da Vinci or something like that so that you can fly? And if that's what you want to do, then you are the person to do it. But you need to define it. You need to set the parameters and figure out exactly what it is. And it is okay if you are between purposes. One book I'm going to really suggest for everybody to read is Way of the Superior Man by David Data. It's a great book, and it's mainly targeted to men, but I think that if women read it, they'll really understand how men think. And the way that he divides it up, he divides it into a masculine essence and a feminine essence, and that everybody's got some of both. Everybody's got masculine, feminine, no matter if you're male or female. Males aren't masculine all the time. Women aren't feminine all the time. And another book, I'll just go ahead and suggest it for people who it is more for men and for women. It's a lot of relationship advice, but it's for any kind of relationship. It doesn't have to be husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, that kind of stuff. It can be any relationship that you have, because again, it's about your way of thinking. It's called Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus by John Gray. Both of those books are really great, actually, for finding your purpose. There's lots of books that I read that do talk about purpose, but those are really good. And they're both relationship kind of books. So I guess it's kind of all driven together because if you have your purpose, it probably affects your relationship more. I also like to think that purposes are kind of like onions. It always reminds me of Shrek. Ogres are like onions. What, they stink? No. They sweat? No. You leave them out the sun, they turn all brown, such brown little white heads? No, they have layers. Purposes have layers, and that's one thing he talks about in Way of the Superior Man. If you have a purpose, what you'll do is you'll focus on it, you'll try to fulfill this purpose, and once you fulfill this purpose, say you have a purpose to become Secret Service agent. And so you go, you get all the training, you get passed, you get hired, you become a Secret Service agent, and then you fulfill that purpose. You might do it for a little bit, and then you think, I'm not drawn to this anymore. I feel like I'm not doing my fullest by being this, and maybe instead I should teach other people how they can become it. And so you go and you do that purpose, and you teach, and say you fulfill that purpose, and your next purpose is, I don't know, building cars. And so you build cars for a while, and then you want to be a CEO, and you become a CEO and high stress job. And then your ultimate purpose at the very beginning is that you want to meditate all day. And that's fine. They say that you keep unwrapping these purposes until you find your ultimate purpose, and you don't know when it's your ultimate purpose until you're there. So when I say it's okay to be between purposes, that's what that means. It means that you are working towards something. There's something you want to do, and you find it, you finally do it, and you feel great. You feel like you're doing everything that you were supposed to do. But after you do that for a while, you will probably fulfill that purpose, and you'll move on. And that's okay. I'm going to go over a little of the differences between men and women, because they are different. I have this talk with Briar all the time, and she and I both kind of see this in a strange light. I don't think a lot of people look at it this way, because I think a lot of women are doing a lot more of the men type things nowadays. And of course, with the feminist movement, again, if that's what you think you need to do, that's great. There are probably people like you that need to alert others about what you're doing. But I think that if women become more like men, men become more sensitive, more soft, they start doing things to be more like women, then you're going to get some kind of just like basic human, some kind of like homogenous, not even like difference. It doesn't matter. You're all just one thing. You're not man or woman anymore. You're just one thing. And I don't think that's good. I think that women have evolved a certain way, and that they believe that they are different. They're designed to have gone out and gathered. They did hunt with the men. They did go persistence hunting. They did track stuff down. But a lot of what they did was also carrying children for miles and miles. And they went and gathered with other women in the tribe, and they would take care of the children. A lot of times the women would, have lots. I mean, that's why. All right, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. So women have this thing where they would have carried their children all the time. And even if they didn't have children until they were in their 20s or whatever, what they would have done is they would have carried them almost all the time, from the time that they were born until they were 3 or 4 would be when they really would stop carrying their children. And if you look today in a lot of older women, there's a lot of osteoporosis. That's a real problem. And it's because their bones weren't bearing load. And when you bear load, if you say get under a barbell and you do lots of squats, you do lots of deadlifts and stuff like that, you're putting yourself under tension. And what your body will do to compensate for that is it'll make your muscles your bones more dense. It will strengthen your muscles, but it'll make your bones really thick and hard to break. And so then when you're older, you'll still have that. And if you fall down, you won't have to worry about breaking a hip or breaking an arm or something like that. But anyway, men and women. So the masculine side is more of the driven side. It's more of the task-oriented side. So whenever you say, I'm going to do this, if I want to start a website, that is a masculine trait. I'm going to do this. It's okay if you're a woman and you're like, I want to start a website, because you can do that. And that is just your masculine trait coming out, and that's fine. The feminine trait is more of the relationship-driven side. In Dr. Gray's book, he talks about women a lot more than David Data does in Way of the Superior Man. And so the way that he describes it is, men are on Mars, women are from Venus. So On Venus, what they do is they're open with everybody. They sit around, they talk, they have fun, they share stories. And, what they do is if one woman is feeling down, what she'll do is she'll get together with all of her other Venusians and she'll sit down with, a big cup of tea and they'll all talk and she'll say all of her problems and they'll all empathize with her and she'll really get her feelings out and it'll feel great. And then, on Mars, all the men they're building cities and they're making stuff bigger and better all the time. And they really feel empty because they have none of the stuff they can give to somebody. They're all building stuff, but why are they building it? And so one day they create this telescope and they see Venus from Mars and they see these beautiful Venusians, and they all of a sudden know that their purpose was to fulfill the needs of this, soft, caring individual. And that is kind of how men and women are. The masculine side wants to take responsibility for the feminine side, and she does enjoy taking care of him, but when she has a problem she wants to talk, and when he has a problem he goes off by himself and he just thinks about it. And that's how men and women are different. And so this feminine trait is really about relationships. If you are good at a lot of the social media stuff, if you're good at making friends, that means that you're better at harnessing your feminine power. Again, not that that's good or bad, right or wrong. I like to think that I'm a little more masculine than I am, but I really am just as feminine as I am masculine. And I have a blog where you can go check out my actual personality. It was Human Atavist, which is humanatavi.st/journal. You'll see my journal. In one of my blog posts, I actually talked about my personality. And if you look at it, it makes sense from that perspective that I am just as feminine as I am masculine. Again, not saying that's bad. I listened to a lot of podcasts, and I was listening to one the other day, and it was Barbell Shrugged one. And it's a great podcast. It's a fitness podcast, but one of the hosts, Chris Moore, they were interviewing this CrossFitter. Her name was Christmas Abbott. And, they were talking about this masculine, feminine trait. It sounded a lot like men are from Mars, women are from Venus. And one of the guys was talking about his masculine side, and then they made a crack at Chris Moore for being feminine. And he was like, you know what? I'm going to accept that. It is what it is. I'm not ashamed of it. And that's because he knows that he's good at some of these other things. It's not good or bad. He just sees it in a good light, which is much better than thinking there's something wrong with me. I think a lot of people think that because they don't have a purpose, or because, their personality is not what their society thinks it should be, that they think there's something wrong with them. And that, causes a lot of unfulfillment, a lot of unhappiness. And it's a shame, because people shouldn't really think there's something wrong with them. I mean, if you do think that, that you just need to maybe research different areas, find other things to help you get on the path towards happiness. So the big step in trying to figure out what your purpose is you've got to plan out your goals. You need to write down everything that excites you, everything that you want to do, everything that you think you should be, what you are appealed to, and what you really want to do with your life, what you really think is the purpose of you being here. That's what we're really talking about. And right now, I'm going to go through mine as an example. Now, I have not done this ahead of time, so if it takes me a little bit to think of some stuff, just bear with me. But my goals. So I am interested in, um, let's see, I want to get, I've got a lot of information I'm trying to get across. So being like this teacher is definitely one thing I'm trying to do. I have a website and a business I'm trying to start. So that's definitely something I want to do. Um, let me just start with those. I don't want to involve my family with some of this stuff because I do think that again they should be involved in the long run, but when you plan out what you want your purpose to be, it shouldn't be the best. Um, I don't know. Be Well, I mean, you should try to be the best husband that you can, but it shouldn't be, I want to live for my wife. It shouldn't be something along those lines because you won't be doing a good job of being in your masculine to support her feminine. So you won't feel fulfilled and it'll start building resentment and she'll be able to tell and it'll cause fights and you should really focus on your purpose because if you can focus on your purpose, you can become truly happy with doing that. Then when you're with them, you'll be more present. When you're with your children, you'll be more fun to play with. You'll actually be present and it'll be just better for everyone. So with my plans, what you want to see is if any of your plans or your goals, first off, overlap. If you think that any of your goals will cause another goal to happen, then maybe that's the goal you should focus on. I've heard a lot of these goal setting things before, and I've tried some of them, but I think that if there really is one that'll like domino into the rest, it's really the better way to go in the long run. So my goals, starting a business, starting a blog, spreading information. I really think that for me to have the funds necessary, because again, to be honest, I don't make very much money. To have the funds necessary, I'm going to try to focus on my business as my purpose. And then my blog and spreading information is going to come out of that because the business is going to make me money. The money's going to be able to make me market better and do all the stuff I need to do. And I'm going to be able to spread the information better because I have a better website. And that's because I have a good business, a successful business. So my purpose right now, if I had to put one down, would be to start this business. And by the way, this business is called Vitality Health Products. I've got a product on there. Everyone should go check out. It's an organic whole food vitamin. But this isn't about, I wasn't setting myself up to really market that here. And what you may also want to do is, once you picked out this goal or this purpose that you think might work, just reflect upon that. Don't set that in stone quite yet. Give it a few days, see how it feels. Write it on a piece of paper and stick it on a wall. And just leave it up there and look at it every once in a while and be like, yeah, I really like that. I could really get into it. I really think that's maybe where I'm supposed to go from here. That's what I'm supposed to do. That's how I can make people happy. That's how I can fulfill myself. You can have selfish goals, selfish ulterior motives in this stuff. That's honestly part of it. You don't want to completely be self-sacrificing or be the martyr archetype or whatever. You want to do stuff that'll make you happy, because if you're doing something that makes you unhappy, you're not going to be able to do it to your fullest extent. And yeah, that's fine. But I really think that once you find your goal, that once you are discussing it and defining it and, you get excited about it, you start sharing it with people, you think, man, I really think I'm supposed to do this. Maybe I'm really supposed to quit my job and move to this other place. Maybe I'm really supposed to, get this thing, invest in this thing so that it'll make my life better. And investing in yourself is a really good way of doing that. David Data in Way the Superior Man, he says you should do a vision quest. If you don't know what to do, if you are unsure of where to go, if you just fulfilled a purpose and you don't know how your life's going to turn out from there, instead of just floating along, you're not going to be doing anybody any favors, including yourself. What you should do is you should do this vision quest. And I've personally never done it. I really want to. I've heard a lot of other people who have done it, spent some time alone in the woods, doing something that is very ancestral, is how a lot of it is. David Data suggests for you to go out in the woods, have a certain area, maybe a clearing, set up a little camp there, and just live austerely there until something comes to you. You aren't supposed to eat. In his view, at least, you're not supposed to eat. You're not supposed to leave this clearing. You stay there for days, 3 days, 4 days, until you really come to with this feeling of what you're supposed to do. And a lot of the other ones I've heard of don't really go to that extent. They don't follow the crazy living austerely kind of thing. If you listen to people like Ben Greenfield, he's gone with his kids actually and had a vision quest with them. And what they did is they just followed a Native American around. They foraged all of their food. He hunted a little bit and cooked, fished. And you're just alone in the woods with just your kids, just your thoughts, doing your own thing, figuring out what you want to do. And that's a good way of doing it. I will say that when you set a goal, say in my particular case, I thought at first, and this is kind of how goals and purposes work sometimes. I'll just give you a little bit of that story. So what had happened was I was in a band. This will start a long time ago. I was in a band, and I really thought my purpose was to be in this band and to be successful. So, man, we really pushed it. We toured around and we recorded an EP. We were trying to build up our reputation, and we had booking agencies working with us. Maybe thinking about looking at record deals somewhere down the road. But in the middle of this, I met my partner, and of course, infatuation sets in, whatever. I really felt that my purpose was to go with her and see where this relationship would take me. And I thought that was my purpose. So then I moved a couple hours away to stay with her. And of course, then the band breaks up because of all of this stuff. We were having trouble keeping some people anyway. And so I'm with her. But a little ways into it, neither of us are really happy. But she got pregnant. And so when my partner became pregnant, I really thought that my purpose was to support a family. And so what I did is I was working at this grocery store. I'm going to try not to say its name so that it'll remain anonymous. I worked at this grocery store, and at this time I was just kind of, whatever. I was just a stalker. And when that happened, I actually sought out and became, an assistant grocery manager. And then I became a grocery manager. And, I then thought that my purpose was to do the best that I could at this grocery store and to become whatever, a store manager, a district manager, whatever else. And so, because there was a lot of money in that, I just had to get up to that point to really be successful with all of that money. But it turned out that, so I became a grocery manager. I got a promotion, a pretty big promotion into a brand new area of the company where they were really focusing on, they wanted only the best people there, and they were opening up mega stores instead of just regular grocery stores. And I really thought that I was going to go into the management program, try to become a manager at one of these places. But when I moved down there, that's when I was really unhealthy at that point. And that's when I discovered all of the stuff about health, and all of this experimentation had started by then. And so then my purpose, I realized, was to become healthy and to figure out what exactly I needed to do to make all of that happen. And so I worked there for a while, but clearly my heart wasn't in it. I started getting in trouble, and I started not wanting to be at work, and I'm sure everybody could tell around me, but I actually quit the job, and I moved back, sat around and waited until I knew exactly what my purpose would be, and started doing something else. And so I actually read the book. It was called 4 Hour Work Week. Great book, that's kind of what showed me the direction to go. And because of all of this stuff, that's where I'm at now. And so I would say my purpose is still starting a business. And I probably want that because of what I read in 4 Hour Work Week. And that's by Tim Ferriss, by the way. I think that I will be much more successful because I've gone this route. Now, I need to make sure that before I take a dive into anything, I'm not going to be leaving any kind of loose ends, because it's not good for you to leave loose ends for other people to clean up. You want to make sure that you have any kind of tasks that are allotted to you that you're supposed to do. You make sure other people can take care of them. You don't just drop in the middle of what you're doing. If you're a Secret Service agent and you think right in the middle of this presidential campaign that you're not going to be this agent anymore, you can't just call in the next day and say, I quit. There's actually stuff you've got to do, because it's not fair to everybody else around you. And you would not be in your masculine or your feminine if you did that, really. It's not a good way to go to start your purpose. It'll probably taint how you view your purpose also. So what you've got to do is you've got to make sure that everything's covered, everything's right, and then the timing will seem perfect. It'll seem like everything falls into place and you can do it. It won't be like that every time, but that's how usually purposes will go. You'll start doing something, and then something else will distract you, and then it'll be like, yes, that's what I want to do. And then you'll do that for a while, and then the same thing will happen again over and over. All right, I want to take a quick break real quick, and then we'll be right back with more of this. And we're going to learn about how you can be fulfilled and how you can be happy, and how your purpose will wrap into both of those. All right, see you after the break.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to say thank you for all your support, and please head over to iTunes, leave me a review, tell me what you think of the show. I appreciate it.
All right, we're back. So what I wanted to talk about was, the difference between fulfillment and happiness, how the purpose wraps into all of this stuff. And I'm just going to jump right in. So fulfillment, that's basically how happy you are with what you're doing, how grateful you are for what you have, how good your relationships are, all of that works into fulfillment. But it's really about your happiness with what you're doing. And so then to look at the happiness, your happiness is, of course, a feeling of elation, but it really comes from satisfaction, it comes from security, it comes from fulfillment can give you happiness, having your purpose can give you happiness. So what you've really got to do is I say start with finding a purpose. Once you find a purpose, start doing that. You'll probably start feeling fulfilled from starting to move towards your purpose, doing what you want, doing what you love. And then from that, you will find happiness. And again, it's okay if you feel emotions sometimes. I don't want to say that it's wrong to feel sad or it's wrong to feel anger or something like that. All of that stuff is part of being human, and without all of that, you wouldn't really know what happiness is. I like to think of happiness as a difference. There is I actually haven't seen it. I kind of want to go see it now, but there's apparently a movie by Disney, and I think it actually sums up what this is really well. But this movie, it's about this little kid, but he's got all these emotions, and the emotions are each personified in his mind, kind of like Osmosis Jones. But what happens is sadness disappears, and so they can't find sadness. And then without this one feeling of sadness, none of the other emotions really mean what they're supposed to mean. And I think that's true. I think if you can never have the light without the dark, but I think that that's a quote from Harry Potter. I think that happiness is more than just being bubbly all the time. I think that it'll spill through in all parts of your life. I think that if you are truly happy, everybody will know, and you won't help but be able to smile sometimes, and you won't feel all of this depression, or you won't feel all of this anger all the time. I think a lot of bosses and CEOs, they probably had happiness when they got this job, but then it dissolves into other stuff, like anger and aggression. And they no longer have the happiness. And you can really tell when someone is like that. I think we all know what that definition actually is. But I just wanted to go over it and see what it means for everybody. So I really want to reiterate that, it goes beyond your purpose, that it is a feeling of security. And when you don't feel secure, you won't be able to feel happy or fulfilled. You won't be able to find your purpose successfully if you don't feel secure. So secure as in you think that someone's going to harm you, of course. You think that, something bad is going to happen to you. Yeah, all of that is security, but really it's how comfortable with the situation at the moment that you feel. And if you don't feel very secure, then it's really going to cloud your judgment, and it's going to block you feeling certain emotions properly. So when I'll just give you a couple examples of feeling secure. So when you're secure, you would have all of your finances in a row. You wouldn't have to worry about money. I think money is a big security that people don't have nowadays. I think that, there is a lot of the abusive partners. I think a lot of it is emotional abuse also, that you're afraid of telling your partner something because of what the reaction is going to be. And, really, if you are happy and fulfilled, it'll seem different. If something bad happens and you have to say it to your partner, then yes, you'll have to fight through, or not fight. You have to work through those moments of sadness, but the other side is going to feel a lot different. You won't be afraid of the sadness. You'll want to be a part of it. You won't be afraid of the anger. You'll want to take part of the anger. It'll have a different feeling about it. Insecurity is, of course, about living in a good place, doing what you want to do. All of it's all really tied together. So again, with this podcast, I wanted to try to find people who have done all of this stuff, who are living healthfully in any aspect of the word, and see how they've done it, see what they've done to get to this point, and what their mindset is about a lot of this stuff. Because when people do have something like a purpose, they set up their life around it. They don't fall victim to the normal stuff that people do. Another example is being low income. When something happens and you start to become low income, of course, there are people who actually do use the country's welfare, and that's why it's there, right? But I think there are people who kind of feed into each other, and it becomes a way of life, and it's difficult to get out, and they don't set up their life correctly. They set it up around this feeling that they're being disempowered. And of course, they're actually the ones disempowering themselves. If they were to empower themselves, they would be able to go farther. They'd go the distance that they'd need to be happy. I think if you wanted a really good book on this topic too, it's called Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. It's a phenomenal book. I felt, truly inspired after reading it. It's really a great book. And he talks a lot about purpose in there. He tells a lot of his story. And I think that a lot of people really go through that. And I think the reason that some people are able to become super successful is because they've had the exact opposite. They've known what it's like to be on the other side of that. And I think what makes them different is that they were the ones who decided to set up their life to change everything, to become what they wanted to be. I don't think it's a coincidence that so many people's stories are so similar, and a lot of people, if you look at a lot of biographies and you look at a lot of these new business books, a lot of them were on the complete opposite end of the spectrum and made their way up. I also think that anybody can do whatever they want as long as they set their life up in the right way. I know that sounds very cliche, and it was difficult for me to believe. I of course, I'm still on a journey, but I am under this mindset now where I don't wonder what's going to happen to me one day. I know that I can set my life up to achieve what I want. I know that it's within my power to get there. If I wanted to become an actor, I know a lot of it, they say has to do with luck. But again, I think that what Tony Robbins says, and I don't remember if this was in Awaken the Giant Within, but he says that luck is the intersection of hard work and opportunity. And that's true. I think if all right, say me as a musician, if I were to really put in the time practicing, the whole band got together and we were amazing. We wrote incredible music. We'd done it for a really long time. We had gotten all the right connections. If you start working with agents playing a lot of places, more people are going to start following you. You're going to build your following. You're going to, with today's technology, you can record your own stuff. You're going to release your own stuff to your audience that you've developed yourself. And imagine being in that place that you've got so many fans, you've got your own agents who are booking these places for you. You've got your own EP or album that you've released that you've given to people. And then say you go to a record label and you want a deal. It would almost be dumb of them to say no because there's already a demand for it and nobody's jumped on it. In fact, you'll probably be approached by them. And again, it's setting up your life. It's the intersection of hard work and opportunity. And if you don't put in the hard work, if you just, hang out sometimes, drink some beers, kind of play, you might get lucky, win some battle of the bands and get to play whatever on some big stage or something, had that happen too. But it's a little different. And I think that if you don't put in the time, you'll be like, why isn't this happening? You'd be like, I've applied to Virgin Records and they haven't responded to me. Why is that? No, my life sucks. Everybody's against me. I can never do this. I think that's what happens a lot. So really to change your mindset, to set down and to make an affirmation around your purpose. That's what I have done. I think that when you reaffirm to yourself, you change your mindset and you make the stuff that you thought that was impossible possible. If your affirmation is to make $1 million, that's great. What you should do is you should just write it down, tell yourself every day, stick it on a mirror, stick it somewhere where you will see it and you'll be able to look at yourself. You'll be able to think to yourself, I'm going to make $1 million. And it's not going to happen overnight. I think that when you look at the law of attraction, that there's some relevance to it, but some of it's not like you're going to win $1 million and the next day you're getting a check in the mail for $1 million. That never happens. So I just want to put that out there too. I think that money is, again, one of the biggest senses of security. And me personally, I am really interested in it. I think that part of my purpose in entertaining these ideas is to try to get people to live healthfully. And I think a huge part of health is nutrition and fitness and, what your lifestyle is like, how everything is set up. But I think a lot of it has to do with money. If I were to imagine a hunter-gatherer, and of course, I'm not trying to put words in anybody's mouth here. I think that if they were tried to force into a capitalist system like this, they would be fighting, and then we would put them on reservations and tell them they can't do that anymore. But anyway, I think that if you were to take a hunter-gatherer mindset and induct them into this culture to condition them all of their life so that they thought that they were part of this, like I am. I can't say I can go back and be a hunter-gatherer anymore, but I think what they would do is they would not be a wage slave. I think that they wouldn't sacrifice their time or say that I am worth $8 an hour. I don't think hunter-gatherers would do that. And yeah, I did that for a long time. And I think it was because that I was conditioned to think that way. I think I was being trained to work in that kind of environment and not question it. I think a lot of people are, and it's sad. I will give another example of how this all works. I think that what you do is how much money you make is a reflection of your value. I think that works anywhere. And, again, people say it doesn't apply in my case, but that's not necessarily true. I worked at a grocery store, straight up job, started as an entry level position. I was literally the cart pusher for a little bit. And I decided that I was going to make the best of it. I was going to do my best. I could see other people just kind of standing around talking, not really caring. And I said I would actually work. And what I did is I, again, climbed the ladder. I got to where I had a ton of knowledge. I could go into any of these stores now and be able to run whole departments. That's still something I would be able to do. Not that I want to anymore, but when I decided that wasn't for me, and I moved back into the area where I was from instead of living in this metropolis that I had gone to, I went to work for one of the stores that I used to work at, and they knew my value. They knew that I was worth a lot more than I was when I left, and so they actually started paying me a lot more from the time that I left until the time that I got back. And I think it was a reflection of my value. I think that it showed what I could give to them, what I would be willing to do if I had the resources. So that is a lot of how I think hunter-gatherers would be. So I'm going to talk a lot about business in this. I'm going to try to get you to start your own business, encourage you to do something so that you will not be a wage slave yourself. And it's not, again, we're conditioned to think certain ways. And I know that I was. I know that I thought a certain way for a very long time, but it's not as big of a deal anymore with the advent of the internet and with all the resources that everybody has. I think that it's realistic for people to be able to start their own jobs. If you look at a lot of these, high tech entrepreneurs and people who've done a lot of research in this realm of technology, they think that within 10 or 15 years, it's going to be where you post a job on the internet. Everybody has their own personal accounts. Again, they're all ranked by the value that they give, however that's determined. And you can pick whatever jobs you want to do depending on when it gets to you. If you're ranked really high, you probably have access to better jobs, and you can just select those jobs to do. And I think that really makes sense from one aspect of it, at least. And I think that's how you should try to organize your life now. If you could get there now, if you could start a business now, then imagine where you'll be down the road. One of my favorite quotes, and I have it on my website, it's a Chinese proverb. It's, when was the best time to plant a tree? You would say 10 years ago. When's the second best time to plant a tree? Right now. And that's because, if you'd say 5 years ago, if I had started a website, it would be huge now. And you're probably right. But since you can't go back in time and start that, imagine what it would be like 5 years from now, and you can make that a reality. And I want to be one of the people that really helps you. I want to encourage you. I want you to set up your life to be like that. I really wish I had that from when I thought that way. So anybody who wants to ever discuss that, please head over to my website, Human Atavist, and I would be glad to talk to you about that kind of stuff. I think that there are tons of great resources. I think that nowadays our educational system isn't really set up to be a winning system anymore. I mentioned I have a 3-year-old. I actually plan on homeschooling her so that I can be the one who's in charge of how she gets her education. And I don't want her to be like that. I don't want her to be a wage slave or think that she has to go to college, get a degree to get a good job, because realistically, that's not how it happens anymore. I have friends who have gone to school and gotten degrees in accounting or something like that, and then they still continued to work at this grocery store for years after they got a degree just because they couldn't find anything. I don't think that's the way to go anymore. I can learn about physics myself. What I did is I ordered some textbooks. I researched and saw what had the best reviews on Amazon. I saw what people suggested the most, because having this greater thinking mind on the internet, people are going to really gravitate towards what works for them and what's successful. So Google's a very powerful person to have on your side when you're trying to self-educate. But you will have to study a lot. It won't be easy, but you get these textbooks and you read them, and if you think that that's got a lot of the right information, you search for more and you read more. You look at blogs, you look at podcasts, you do everything to try to educate yourself. And I think that that's going to be the education of the future also. I don't think that it's going to be the same as pay to go to this college so that I can continue to live at my parents' when I'm done with getting my degree. But whenever I start getting other people on this podcast, I'm going to I want to, by the way, I want to set the basis first. I don't want to jump too deep into this for anybody, and I feel better when I have a solid foundation to stand on, and I think that it frames everything else. Of course, there are many great resources out there already, and I think this podcast is one of them. But whenever I start interviewing people, I'm going to interview people about business just because I think it's such a relevant thing. It may not be a hunter-gatherer lifestyle, but I think that it's how we have to live in this civilization that we're in. Again, health is not only what we eat and how we exercise and everything we do. It's really how we think and who we're with, how secure we feel. I think that there are many aspects to health that go beyond what you can describe. And I want everybody to get to the point where they actually believe that they can do the best, that maybe they're not doing the best right now, but they know how to get to where they want to be. So I'm going to tell everyone right now what I want you to do. And I want you to do this, as soon as you get off this podcast. I want you to think about what your goals are, what you want to do, what you want to be remembered for, how you want to be talked about after you're gone. And I want you to start listing that out. I want you to find your purpose. I want you to make it concrete. You need to clearly define it. I want you to be able to write it down, put it on a sticky note, stick it on your mirror in your bathroom. I think that's great. One of my walls in my kitchen is a whiteboard. I write stuff there that I want to look at every day because I will see it every day. I want you to get a notebook and have an affirmation based on this purpose. I want you to write it down. And I want you to feel like you're not alone in this. I think that also everybody, you should go to the website. You should go to humanatavist.com/podcast and leave it in the comments of this podcast about what you actually think that your purpose should be. I think that it's really powerful to have a community around you, and that if you find other people whose purposes are maybe similar, maybe someone wants to be a graphic designer and someone else they want to start a business and they need something designed, you can find people that way, and that's how you start relationships. So that's what I want you to do. Find your purpose, write it down, share it with everybody, tell as many people as you can, put it on your Facebook page, everything. And I hope to hear all of these comments from you. What I'll do is I'll go and I'll comment on this website, and I know I'll be the first comment, and I will leave my purpose. Tell me what you think of it too. Yeah, that would be really great if we could all have a community talking about this. So I look forward to reading all of these. And again, thank you. This podcast is brought to you by Vitality Health Products. Behold the power of vitality. Now, this is a company that I started to provide organic whole food supplements for people who really care about the quality of their supplements. Right now, featured at vitalityhp.com is the world's first energizing mind-body supplement called Dual Energy. To find out more, go to vitalityhp.com. Dual Energy, clarity for the mind, power for the body. I also wanted to tell everyone who wanted to support this show, please head over to my website, Human Atavist, that's HUMANATAVI.st, and just donate $1. That helps keep this podcast going. Just one more thing. I wanted to remind everybody to head over to facebook.com/humanatavist to hook up over there. My Twitter handle is humanatavist @humanatavist. And I have a YouTube channel at Human Atavist. Please go check it out. I appreciate everything, guys, and I'll see you next time.